Andy Burnham talked about, but that was a very good speech. And quite frankly, not just cities, we should be thinking about this for our towns and our high streets. There is an opportunity to rebuild them. We should be looking at that. That will give great progress and actually start to think about how we want to live a better life, a more humane life, and tackle things like obesity, well-being, and create our communities back again. But that's not my talk today, sorry. In 2013, when the late writer David Foster Wallace gave a commencement speech at the Kenyon College in the States, he started with this simple parable. There are these two young fish, and they're swimming along, and they happen to meet an older fish who's swimming the other way. And the older fish says to the two young fish, "How's the water?" And they swim on the little fish, and then one turns to the other and says, "What the hell is water?" Now, no laugh there, but nevertheless, the point of this fish story is merely that the most obvious and important realities are often the ones that are the hardest to see. And when we do see them, they're the hardest to actually do something about. Now, I, along with most of us in this room, swam in the water for many years, not knowing or seeing the realities. And I'm going to be forgiving, as most of us had no idea of the impact of the way we lived, of the impact of businesses, of the impact that the part we all played on our planet. Now, I'm going to be even more forgiving to other people who, like me, cut their teeth in the business world as a child of the 80s. I started at Harrods, by the way, on their management training. Reagan's Wall Street was on one side of the Atlantic, Thatcher's new shiny Canary Wharf was on the other, and all of it pointed to one thing. Success in the new world is about growth, about money, and it's about power. And along with it came this ever-growing consumerism, which I, mea culpa, played a brilliant part of. I was creative director at the time of, well, no, not later then, but later, of Harvey Nicks, which was part of the ever-evolving designer luxury market. And my number one goal, basically, was to create these stories of aspiration and success, having the right handbag, the designer clothes, the accessories. It went across so many different areas of business, all of which said you'd made it. Problem was, none of us questioned who made it, or how they made it, or what impact the making of it had on people, their well-being, or on our planet. I didn't know. I don't think many of us knew, but we do know now. And when I first started to wake up to the fact that the industry that I'd proudly been part of all my working life was one of the biggest contributors to killing our planet, by the way, more emissions than all international flights and shipping combined, let alone 85% of all textiles going to dumps, I had a real moment of panic. Because that moment of panic is around, I've made my money like this, where do you even start to shift? Where do you start to go through with this? How on earth do you turn the tide on that beast? How, after years of sole business focus being on growth and profit, how do you change that? How, after creating a society where progress was linked to what you owned, how the hell do you unravel that? Where do you begin? I started talking to myself, which I do quite often, and I remember it particularly heightened during the time of COVID. My business, which was all retailers, had stopped as much as they wanted to do. They closed down everything, and I suddenly found myself going, oh God, we're not only going to be 10% down, 20% down, we're going to be 50%. Oh, have I got a business? And I had to re-evaluate. They were lonely, scary days in lockdown. I had friends sending me, should we have a Zoom drink and we're going to do Zumba tonight? And I was like, just please leave me alone. No Zumba. Lots of drink though, by the way. I started to look and analyse and look at some great people who'd done work on this way before I did. And I found some incredible work from Kate Rayworth's genius book, if you get the chance to read The Donut Economy, to leading voices in the industry who were starting to look at solutions. So I started to reach out to many of them. Lots of them were economists, which is great, but I wanted to know how to put it into practice to make this change. And then I started to connect these people with my team at Portas HQ, and we started writing a newsletter, and I thought, well, a few people are going to read it. Then thousands started to sign up to it. So then I started a podcast called The Kindness Economy. Then Penguin rang me up and said, would you write a book on this? And the traction came fast. Not because I've got a big mouth and a public figure, but because people and businesses wanted to change. And knowing they had to find a way out, but finding the whole thing completely mind-blowing. We've been working this way for so many years. Then what happened was I'd get these requests from big global businesses who knew they had to do something about it, and they'd call me in to speak at some fairly significant events, and I'd be the keynote, and right across from investment companies to banks to techs, all of them knowing change needed to happen. So after a few of these talks, I'd wait for the little tug on my sleeve just before I got on stage, and the CEO would whisper to me, look, Mary, we're really behind this. We know we've got to do something about our planet and people's well-being, but this is business, you know. Those are bankers you're speaking to, or those are investors. Well, you know how it is. Profit is important, and can you kind of balance it and let them know that? And of course it's important to make profit. We need profitable, successful businesses. We don't need businesses that are just based on growth. We need businesses that are thriving commercial businesses. And what I don't believe we need is businesses that don't respect humanity and our planet. I mean, it made me so sad the other day about, I don't know if you've read it, I'm sure some other people have talked about this today, or maybe not, but the HSB head of responsible banking, who said, who cares if Miami is 6 meters underwater in 100 years? In my 25 years in the finance industry, there's always some nut job telling me about the end of the world. I work at a bank. That's being attacked by crypto. We've got regulators in the US trying to stop us. We've got the China problem. We've got a housing crisis looming. We've got interest rate going up. We've got inflation coming down the pipes. And I'm being told to look at something that's going to happen in 20 or 30 years. Sadly, there'll be many businesses like his. Sadly, there'll be a part of all of us in business going, how do we get through this? Sadly, there will be people going, let's just keep going at any cost. Who cares what happens in the long term? You know, many having to deliver growth to their shareholders, despite what's happening in the world. And believe me, I'm under absolutely no illusion that coming out of COVID into the teeth of this economic downturn is bloody hard for business. I'm in this game. I see it daily. But there is another way. There's always another way. And we saw such creativity and innovation during COVID. Here's the thing. We do need to care if Miami is 6 meters underwater in 100 years. And we do need to care about what's going to happen in 20 to 30 years' time, because we do need to care about our children and our children's children's future. And does being a savvy business person mean you're an uncaring utter bastard? Well, maybe if you watch The Apprentice, yes, but we won't talk about that. That did give us Katie Hopkins after all, didn't it? I want a legacy that says the class of 2022, that's us lot, they were the businesses that changed and helped make the world better. Now, that's why I joined over 1,200 other businesses to become the co-chair of the Better Business Act. And our simple goal is this. We believe that by updating the current Companies Act and making a really simple change to Section 172, this will help businesses navigate and support the future that we all need for our children, our children's children. We want an amendment so that companies are legally obligated to operate in a manner that benefits all their stakeholders, not just the shareholders, from workers, customers to communities and the environment, but at the same time, of course, seeking to deliver profit for shareholders. Simply put, we're asking businesses to report on how they balance people, planet, and profit together. My question to all of you sitting here today, because you're going to sign up, I know, I can feel it. Why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you do it? We can no longer have profit alone as a measure of progress in business. We need to create a new purpose for business. We need to create the new stories. Unlike the ones I created at Harvey Nicks, where greed and gain said success, it doesn't anymore. In fact, it's the antithesis of what the world needs. No, that handbag won't make your life better. What will make your life better, however, is walking through the woods with your children, breathing clean air, not worrying that your home might flood the next time it rains. The new stories that we as businesses should be creating and living are built around kindness, respect, betterment, integrity and truth. And of course you're going to need a handbag. What girl doesn't? But it won't be one every season. And it'll be one that comes from a company that cares. And it'll be one that comes from a company that thinks about where it was made and who made it and what their life's like. It'll be coming from businesses that create social progress as well as taking. People, planet, progress. Great title for this. That's the answer. We need to produce profitable solutions to the problems of people and planet, and not profit from producing problems for people and planet. That is progress. And the good news is, as I tell those nervous CEOs grabbing onto me before I go on stage, is this. The evidence we have shows that you can pursue profit at the same time as delivering progress for people and planet. With the BBA, we've tracked the performance of businesses run on the principles of the Better Business Act. Over the past 2 years, we've found it across a range of critical business measures while basing their decisions on a better alignment of profit return with wider and social environmental impact. These firms delivered faster growth in turnover and employee headcount, higher expectation of future growth in turnover and employee headcount, greater levels of employee retention and diversity, higher levels of innovation, and they were equally successful at securing external finance. Listen, we've got to remember, this isn't just about stats. That's how we've always worked. Give me the numbers, show it. This is about people called consumers. I don't even like calling them consumers, because that kind of, if you look at people as consumers, you judge me by what I buy, not who I am, how I want to live my life, and the impact that you as businesses can have on my life. People today are wanting and expecting to buy into better. The majority of people in the UK favour businesses that do good in the world. Survey after survey is showing that. Yes, people are becoming more cost conscious, but given the choice, they still want to opt for goods and services that they believe will make the world a better place. We owe that to them. It's our duty as business leaders and decision makers to do so. And the path that we all choose is going to be determined by decisions that we make in the weeks and months ahead by people like all of us in this room, custodians of business, the backbone of our society. And if that sounds like a rallying cry, yes, it is. This is our moment to create change. There was a quote that I read when I was reading a book on Hannah Arendt, and it was by the philosopher Gershom Scholem, and he talked about the plastic hours. And the plastic hours happen after something so traumatic happens in the world that we know we can never go back and that change has to happen. He talked about it after the Holocaust. We've had trauma. We cannot go back to the way we were before. This is the time, as he says, to align, to make deep change possible. These are crucial moments, he said, when it's possible to act. And if you move then, something happens. And the great physicist Carlo Rovelli says, disorder's not a mistake. It's our default setting. A world in which nothing breaks or falls will be a world without innovation and creativity. So we're at that point to innovate, to create. We're in those plastic hours now, and our new future is just there within our grasp. We just have to grab it. Change has swept through all of us, discomfort's all around. Everyone's been affected and has had a different experience of the last few years. And some are much more severe than others, and some tragically. There's nobody whose life has not been touched, nobody whose life is not in flux to some degree or another. So it's up to us, as organisations, as businesses, as individuals, to take these plastic hours and make something of them. That's why it's important to act now and create change, and that we can create, as Andy even was looking at, our towns, businesses, commercially future-proofed, that will contribute to healthier societies and a healthier planet. And we mustn't underestimate how our ability to adapt is a beautiful thing. We've got the power and we have the potential to make that change. So I'm going to leave you with sign up to the Better Business Act. My crew in the corner. What's it sounds so boring when I finish off with that .org. But what is it, guys? BetterBusinessAct.org. Please have a look at it. It's vitally important. And thanks for listening to me going on today.